Daniel Archer, 38 years old, was an engineer living in one of New York's quiet and orderly neighborhoods. He was a man who loved to plan his life down to the smallest detail, having grown up in an environment of order and discipline. For many years, he had worked at a large construction company and was known as a genius who solved the most complex parts of projects. His childhood fascination with technology and details had steered him toward this field. But above all, Daniel's greatest passion was freedom. Going for a run in the mornings, discovering new places, feeling the world with his eyes. This was his way of life. He lived alone in a small apartment, furnished with simple yet tasteful items. While the thought of marriage had always lingered in the back of his mind, his life was always consumed by his work. His family had moved to another state years ago, so Daniel's greatest companion in life was silence. But sometimes life is too much, even for silence. One morning, he went to the site to inspect a large subway construction project his company was overseeing. There was an unusual heaviness in the air that day. A strong wind was blowing, and the sky was covered with gray clouds. Everyone felt a little uneasy, but for Daniel, it was just another workday. The safety measures had been put in place, and the workers on site were experienced. However, no matter how careful a person is, sometimes fate waits for a single moment of weakness. During the inspection, as Daniel entered the tunnel area, he was suddenly shaken by a loud explosion. A gas line accidentally activated had caused a small fire underground. The fire was quickly brought under control, but the thick smoke and the flying shards of a shattered metal pipe struck Daniel in the face. The hot metal pieces that hit his eyes changed his life forever in just a few seconds. Daniel remained unconscious in the intensive care unit for 3 days. When he woke up, he heard the voice of the doctor standing by his side, delivering the most painful truth of his life. "Daniel, your eyes have lost their function. Unfortunately, you will never see again." In that moment, everything stopped. The world seemed to sink into the silence within Daniel. Losing his vision was not just the loss of one sense. For him, it was the loss of his freedom, his work, his dreams, and even his identity. In the early days, the pain didn't just come from his eyes, it seeped from the deepest parts of his soul. He couldn't look at himself in the mirror because there was no longer a reflection. His mind was filled with the ghosts of the past, trapped between a dark future and a broken present. He didn't leave his house for months. His friends called, sent messages, but Daniel didn't respond to any of them. While he was able to sustain himself somewhat with technological devices, emotionally he had almost completely collapsed. A few therapy sessions with psychologists had been useless. Everyone told him he would get used to it, but Daniel didn't want to embrace life again. He was a man who had loved the world with his eyes. Now his world consisted of nothing but a pitch-black void. Over time, loneliness turned into a habit. His days passed in silence, filling the hours by walking to and from the kitchen, counting the steps he had memorized. The concept of time had become meaningless. By the second month after losing his vision, Daniel had cut off all connections with the outside world. Sometimes, he couldn't even tolerate the phone ringing. He felt that sound was a threat. In his head, the moment kept repeating itself. The explosion sound, the heat burning his face, the screams of the people around him. At night, he woke up drenched in sweat, facing darkness even behind his closed eyelids. That day seemed like an ordinary one, or so he thought. While trying to prepare his morning coffee, he accidentally knocked the mug he had placed on the kitchen counter. He didn't even notice when the hot coffee spilled. His foot slipped. He fell hard to the floor. For a moment, he thought he had hit his head. But what was worse was that he wasn't just on the ground. He was still inside it. He was angry. No, he wasn't just angry. He was furious. The suppressed emotions that had enveloped his whole body suddenly exploded. "Damn it! Why me?" he shouted. He slammed his palms into the floor, then buried his head in his arms. In that moment, he couldn't hold back his tears. He didn't cry. He screamed. The silent scream inside him had found its voice for the first time. He yelled at everything around him, the glasses, the doors, even his reflection that he couldn't see. Then suddenly he tried to get up, but lost his balance and fell again. A chair tipped over. A plate fell off the shelf and shattered. The sharp sound of the glass echoed through the house. Daniel lay there on the floor. As he took deep breaths, It felt as if he had become a stranger to his own body. His mind was losing control. The darkness wasn't just in his eyes anymore. It was in his mind as well. In that moment, for the first time, he was truly afraid. Afraid of himself. This loneliness, this darkness, this silence. He felt them slowly destroying him. And for the first time, the thought of death slipped into the corner of his mind. But at the same time, an old photograph that had fallen from the pocket of his torn shirt caught his attention. He traced it with his fingers. It was a picture of him smiling with a woman, his mother. He remembered the words his mother had told him when he was a child. Sometimes life teaches you to see not with your eyes, but with your heart. In that moment, he took a deep breath. He calmed down. Silently, he straightened up. For the first time, he realized that darkness didn't only hold fear. There was pain, but alongside it, there was something else. The will to live. But he was still alone. Very alone. After the breakdown he had in the kitchen that day, Daniel tried to pull himself together. His whole body ached, and his soul felt as though it was about to scream at any moment. But a phone call he received in the morning would offer him a way out on that dark day when he was face to face with despair. The voice on the other end of the phone spoke in a gentle yet cold tone. "Hello, Mr. Archer. My name is Linda, and I'm calling from an organization that works with guide dogs for visually impaired individuals. You applied some time ago. Is there anything we can assist you with?" Daniel paused for a moment. He gripped the phone tightly but didn't respond. A life-changing opportunity was approaching him, and even then, it was hard to believe. Linda continued, "Our organization provides various training programs to help visually impaired individuals with guide dogs. These dogs are not only guides, but also very strong companions. They can help you rebuild your life." Daniel was about to hang up, but something stopped him. In that moment, in that emptiness, there was something he couldn't see. Hope. The man who had once planned and controlled every moment of his life was now simply trying to cope with a guide dog. "What do I have to lose?" he thought. And then, in response to Linda, simply said, "Yes." That day, with the instructions he received from Linda, Daniel was soon directed to a center to begin dog training. Before starting therapy, he could hardly imagine the day he would meet a guide dog. He was slowly but steadily looking for a way out. A week later that morning, he felt more determined than ever. The center was located outside the city, in a quiet area. With each step, Daniel tried to push aside his dark thoughts. When he arrived at the center, the weight of his mood was almost too much to bear, and his heart seemed ready to burst out of his chest. When he stepped through the door of the training center, he lifted his head and looked around. Everything here was done with patience and love. Then the moment arrived when he would meet him. Linda, in uniform, walked confidently towards Daniel and smiled. She had a dog with her, Maximum. Max was a Labrador just a few steps away, his eyes bright, energetic. His fur was a golden brown color. His eyes were full of life, but also had a look of loyalty and trust as he gazed at Daniel. "This is Max. We're here to meet you today. He will be your eyes." Daniel hesitated slightly as he bent down and took a few steps toward Max. The dog paused for a moment, but then, as if it recognized him, sniffed Daniel's hand. The way the dog could recognize a person's scent so well made Daniel feel as though he were a part of it. Max approached not with the usual warmth of affection one might expect from a dog, but with something much deeper. In that moment, Daniel felt as though he had found a light in his darkness. He realized that a guide dog wasn't just there to show the way. It could actually be so much more in a person's life. Max turned towards Daniel and began guiding him to take his first steps. Slowly but surely, with each movement, the dog was sending a message that it would be by Daniel's side. In that moment, Daniel found a trust that he had never seen, but could feel deeply in his heart. "Do you know that life has so many paths for you to begin seeing again?" Linda's voice could be heard in the background. Daniel closed his eyes in that moment and took a deep breath. He didn't respond, but with every step Max took, something changed. There was a light touching his life. The first days were complex and challenging for Daniel. Max continued to be by his side, guiding him every step of the way. But Daniel still remembered his old life. In a world where his eyes no longer worked, Max wasn't just guiding him, He was also teaching him how to reconnect with people, emotions, and a new life. Those first days passed slowly but steadily. Max guided Daniel in the laundry room in the mornings and took him to the park in the evenings. With every step, the darkness inside Daniel lightened just a little more. Max became the safest place for Daniel in the world. The time they spent together gave him confidence and encouraged him to set sail toward a new life. One morning, Daniel noticed that Max was sitting impatiently in front of his door. He quickly decided to get ready and go outside. That morning, he thought a walk in the park would do him a lot of good. He opened the door, saw Max gently wagging his tail, and ran his hand over the dog's head. "It's a beautiful day, isn't it?" Daniel murmured, looking at Max. Max wagged his tail once more, as if that was an answer. Such a simple thing had created a big change in Daniel's world. With every step, Max was giving him confidence and helping him discover new things. Within a few weeks, Daniel became more comfortable walking outside. With Max's guidance, he was able to venture to places he had never been before. Many times, Max had shown him a new parking spot, a different shopping street, or the quietest corner of the park. One day, while Daniel was in the park with Max, he noticed something he had heard about but never seen before. People were approaching him in a different way. At first, he hadn't noticed, but recently he had started communicating more with others. Max wasn't just helping him understand the world around him, he was also encouraging him to interact more with people. A woman smiled as she introduced her dog to Max and said, "Super dog." When Daniel heard her words for the first time, he squinted and smiled. He began to feel a little more like a person again. People were helping him more. Sometimes little children would approach Max to play with him, and Daniel would smile back at them in return. These small interactions were a big step for Daniel. He had been living in his own world for so long. His walks with Max gave him the opportunity to rediscover the outside world. What he had once looked down on as small, simple human interactions were now becoming meaningful parts of life. One day, while returning from the park, Daniel encountered something he had never noticed before. A street dog crossed the path and moved toward Max. Max immediately positioned himself to protect Daniel, his body language making it clear. Daniel paused for a moment, watched the dog approach, and then gave Max a command. "Slow down, Max." Max slowly sat down and calmly stared at the street dog. The dog hesitated for a few seconds and then backed off. Daniel could sense that Max was there to protect him, but he also realized something else. Max wasn't just protecting him, but was also guarding other creatures. In that moment, Daniel felt that Max was not only his guide dog, but also his greatest friend and protector. With each passing day, Daniel's bond with Max grew deeper. Daniel began to realize that Max was not just a dog, but a true companion. This process was not only helping Daniel emotionally heal, but it was also providing him with a bridge to the life he had once lost. One evening, while Daniel was home alone, he noticed that Max was sitting comfortably beside him. As Daniel looked into Max's eyes, he felt something profoundly different. In that moment, he wasn't seeing everything with his eyes, but feeling it with his heart. Max was teaching him something new every day, making every moment together meaningful. Daniel quietly took a deep breath and silently gave thanks. Max wasn't just showing him the way, he was helping him find his own path. With each passing day, Daniel grew closer to Max. Max wasn't just guiding him physically, he was also helping Daniel embark on an emotional journey of discovery. During this process, his relationships with the people around him and with life itself began to slowly reshape. One morning, Daniel noticed Max eagerly indicating the door. He had become so accustomed to Max's movements that he could immediately understand what he needed to do. He quickly got dressed and decided to go outside with Max. That day, they were following a walking path in the park that Daniel had never taken before. Max's patient steps, as always, guided him. As they moved toward a quieter part of the park, another dog suddenly appeared in front of them. Max immediately stopped and carefully observed the dog. It was a big, friendly golden retriever, its tail wagging joyfully. Daniel quickly noticed the dog's owner. The woman was leaning against a tree at the edge of the park, playing with her dog. Max took a few steps toward the woman and moved closer to introduce himself to the dog. When the woman noticed Max, she smiled. Even though Daniel couldn't hear her smile, he could feel her comfort through her voice and energy. The woman noticed how gentle and calm Max was. "Is he a guide dog?" she asked. Yes, Daniel replied. Yes, Max is my guide dog. The woman noticed the depth in Max's eyes and the harmony between him and Daniel. What a beautiful dog, she said. Daniel could feel the compassion and softness in her voice. He felt so at ease that he realized being with this woman brought a strange sense of peace. Something inside him was beginning to change. As the woman petted Max, she turned to Daniel and said, "My name's Lily. This is Buddy. He's also a guide dog, but a little different, a bit messy," she smiled. Daniel, a bit shy but feeling the warmth inside, replied, "I'm Daniel. Max means everything to me." Lily noticed the subtle tone in Daniel's voice, and both of them smiled at each other. In that moment, they both sensed something about each other. While Max and Buddy played together for a few minutes, their conversation flowed lightly and naturally. Daniel had never felt so relaxed. Lily wasn't just giving him comfort by talking, but also by listening, creating a sense of trust. Lily and Daniel began to run into each other frequently in the park on mornings over the next few weeks. Each time, their conversations deepened, and Lily's cheerful smile and calming voice made Daniel feel even more at ease. While Max and Buddy played together, they had unintentionally laid the foundation of a friendship. One day, Lily suggested the most beautiful walking path in the park to Daniel and Max. Daniel looked at Lily with a bit more attention. That day, they were there at one of the most beautiful times of the day. The sun was casting golden light across the park. Everything was so quiet and peaceful that Daniel realized how beautiful these sights were, even though he couldn't see them with his eyes, and how much he could feel them with his senses. Being with Lily was a source of comfort and peace. One evening, after they finished their walk, Lily and Daniel stopped at a corner of the park. Max and Buddy were playing a little further ahead. Daniel turned to Lily and sincerely said, "I want to thank you for listening to me, for understanding me. I feel alive again." Lily carefully looked into Daniel's eyes and smiled. "I'm so happy to hear that," she said. "Life can be tough sometimes, but we have to find the right friends in our lives. And sometimes, the things we can't see in life are the things we can only feel with our hearts." In that moment, it felt as though the darkness inside Daniel had completely vanished. His relationship with Lily was no longer just a coincidence. It was becoming an important part of his life. Max was not only showing him the world he couldn't see with his eyes, but also the people he was reconnecting with through his heart. The bond between Daniel and Lily was starting to grow into something more than just a friendship. Max was working like an invisible thread that connected them. With each passing day, as Daniel accepted the pain of losing his old life, he was also beginning to open the doors to a new beginning. Months passed. With each passing day, Daniel continued to accept his life more and more, moving forward step by step with Max's guidance. Max had gone beyond being just a guide dog. He had become Daniel's emotional support, his loyal friend, and above all, the light that was once again illuminating his world. However, Max had also helped Daniel realize the role of another important person in his life, Lily. From the moment they first met, a bond had formed between Daniel and Lily. But over time, that bond had turned into a deep love. The trust and understanding they had for each other grew stronger each day. Time was only strengthening their feelings, helping them become stronger together in the face of life's challenges. Max was still there for them throughout this process. But now he was not just a guide. He was another hero who had helped lay the foundation of their relationship. Daniel felt more and more complete beside Lily every day. With her, the darkness was replaced by a warm, peaceful light. Lily's smiling face and patient demeanor filled the empty spaces inside Daniel, giving him joy and hope once again. One day, while walking in the park, Max and Buddy were running together again. As Daniel approached Lily, he suddenly stopped. In that moment, he felt the intensity of his emotions. He focused carefully on his feelings and turned to Lily. "Lily," he said, his voice slightly trembling, "there's something I need to tell you." Lily, looking into Daniel's eyes with concern, asked, "What happened?" Daniel paused for a moment, waiting a few seconds to gather his emotions. Then he decided to share his deepest thoughts and the most sincere feelings of his heart. "Sometimes a person can feel lost, but I met you, and now everything has meaning. Everything changed for me. Every moment I spend with you is the most precious moment of my life. Max and Buddy are with us, and life is beautiful above all else. Being with you feels like turning a dream into reality. I want you to stay with me. I want this." Lily saw the emotions in Daniel's eyes and smiled. "I love you too, Daniel," she said. "I've always felt this, but being with you now makes everything feel meaningful. This is something that brings two lonely hearts together. Life will be much more beautiful together." In that moment, all the darkness and fears inside Daniel vanished. Lily's words symbolized a transformation in his world. Where he had once been lost in the dark, he was now filled with love. He decided to carry this love beyond everything. Over time, the relationship between Daniel and Lily grew even deeper. The time they spent together became not only enjoyable, but also a healing process. Both of them, having cleansed themselves from past pains, grew closer to each other. Max and Buddy, always by their side on this journey, had become another reason their lives were so beautiful. Every moment they shared was a reflection of the love they had for each other. One evening, Lily wanted to take Daniel to a special place. "Come," she said, "I have a surprise for you." Daniel followed Lily, filled with curiosity. Max and Buddy were running around in the park, playing freely. Lily took Daniel to an old beautiful restaurant outside the city. The tables were adorned with lights, and everything had been arranged to match their special moment. Lily smiled and, as she opened a bottle of wine, said, "I want to celebrate this with you." Daniel, in surprise, asked, "What are we celebrating?" Lily sighed and replied, "Our life, living it together." She paused and looked into Daniel's eyes. "Everything makes sense with you. Truly everything. Will you marry me, Daniel?" Daniel's heart began to race. In that moment, he felt all his emotions coming together. With Max and Buddy guiding him, he was now embarking on a real journey. This moment, which had changed his entire life, was a turning point for him. A few seconds later, Daniel took a deep breath, never taking his eyes off Lily's. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I want to share everything with you." In that moment, Lily's eyes lit up, and they both smiled happily. Max and Buddy ran toward them, as if to celebrate the moment. The love between Daniel and Lily grew stronger every day. Their bond was no longer just emotional, but had been reinforced by their decision to merge their lives together. Max and Buddy were not just two dogs. They were the most cherished companions in this couple's life. Together, they had rediscovered life, and now everything seemed brighter, more hopeful. Over time, Daniel and Lily's lives had become completely integrated. Max and Buddy were not just dogs. They were their most loyal companions and an inseparable part of their lives. The years they spent together had strengthened their bond more and more each day. But this wasn't just an emotional connection. It was time for a new beginning. One day, Lily and Daniel found themselves in agreement on a shared vision. Both of them saw an opportunity to create the business they had dreamed of for years. Combining Daniel's experience with Lily's management skills, they decided to start a business offering a guide service specifically for dog owners. But this wasn't going to be just any dog training center. Inspired by the experiences of Max and Buddy, they decided to open a center that would provide guide dog training for blind individuals. Through Max and Buddy's journeys, they knew that dogs could not only guide their owners physically, but also heal their emotional worlds. Their business started small, but in a meaningful way. Many dog owners were applying to Daniel and Lily's center. Daniel, with his deep knowledge of dog care and guide dog training, was helping people, while Lily took care of the management and other aspects of the business. Max began introducing the new dogs, training them, while Buddy played with the other dogs, easing their anxieties and boosting their sense of security. As the days went by, Daniel and Lily's business grew. Every day they met new people, teaching them how to address their dog's emotional needs, not just their physical ones. Daniel had rediscovered how important it was to work alongside Max and Buddy, both for himself and for others. Max was not only his guide, but also his business partner. Buddy, on the other hand, always brought joy and peace to them. A year later, Daniel and Lily's center was receiving more applications than ever. People weren't just training their dogs, they were also healing their hearts. Max had become a master, learning to guide other dogs. Buddy, with his small heart, continued to make a big difference. Daniel and Lily shared their lives together, discovering new meaning every day, making every moment more valuable. One morning, as Daniel and Lily went for their morning walk, they thought about how different everything was now. They remembered the old dark days, the times when Daniel had to cope with his blindness, and the days when Lily had been alone. But those times now felt like nothing compared to where they were now. Their lives were brighter and filled with hope in every way. Many people were inspired by their story, looking for different ways to help one another. Daniel and Lily had made their lives, and the lives of others, more beautiful. Every new step brought them more happiness and peace, and Max and Buddy continued to teach them something new every day. One day they organized a party to celebrate the success of their business. After 2 years of overcoming every challenge together, they had finally made it. People congratulated them and celebrated their achievements. Daniel and Lily looked at each other and smiled. In their eyes, there was love, gratitude, and the strength of being together. Max and Buddy were playing with the children at the party, bringing joy to everyone around. That evening, as Daniel and Lily sat in their garden under the stars, they quietly looked at each other and realized they were living the life they once only dreamed about. Having Max and Buddy by their side made everything feel even more meaningful and precious. "Life is so beautiful, isn't it?" Lily said softly. Daniel smiled and replied, "Yes, Lily. Life can be dark sometimes, but with the right friends and the right heart, everything lights up." Max and Buddy changed everything. In that moment, they felt like everything in their lives had fallen into place. The world they had built together was shaped by the loyalty and love of a dog. The day everything had seemed lost was, in truth, the beginning of everything. Because sometimes the darkest moments give birth to the brightest lights. If you like this story, don't forget to share it with your friends and subscribe for more content.